This is Everything is Personal with Len and May.
3, 2, 1. Bang.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Everything is Personal.
Yeah.
That was lame. That was lame
Hey,
applause.
hold on. That was lame. Let me, I know, hold on. I'm going to record that track. Forgot to record that track. We're going to start again. That was kind of a lame. Maybe I should do it like I can do like a crazy cheers. I should download a crazy cheers. It doesn't matter.
I think this is funny. Like,
yeah, it's because it's not like good. It's like 5 people in an audience.
Exactly.
All right. Let's do that again. All right. 3, 2, 1. Bang.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Everything is Personal.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mom.
Exactly.
Thanks, Dad.
You have 3 people in the audience.
Yeah.
Like,
This is like, it's like the science theater. It's like mystery science theater. There's like 4 people.
hey, I didn't introduce you. And as always,
yeah, who's talking?
Yes, who's talking is Mr. Jon Small.
A little bit slow on the sound effects today. Hey, everybody. It's Jon Small Downer. No, I'm Jon Small Happy Guy, right?
Yes. Shibby y'all.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, this is a good episode. We haven't done a solo one-on-one episode since the very early days of this podcast.
That is true.
You've had stellar guests for almost every episode, so this is kind of fun to have you. But there's a reason that there's just the 2 of us today. And do you want to explain to that what the reason is?
What's the reason?
Oh, I actually forgot. What is the reason? No, the reason is because we're going to talk about your book, which I just read, which is really good. I recommend it to everybody. And we don't want to turn this into an infomercial. I get it. But the fact is you wrote a freaking book, and it's not everybody writes books. It's hard to write a book. And I'm very impressed. I want to know more about the process and a little bit more about why you wrote the book. But congratulations on your book. And
thank you.
It's called Making Cannabis Personal. It's called Making Cannabis. I don't even know what the hell it's called. I think I just obviously got very personal with cannabis, so I can't even freaking
Making Cannabis Personal.
Yes, by Len May, the CEO of Endocanna Health. And it is a good read. I learned a lot, not only about cannabis, but about you. And I thought I knew a lot about you because we do a podcast together and you talk a lot about your personal life. But I learned a lot about you here. So that was really insightful for me. And I think people will really enjoy it. But just from a kind of pure, learning about the plant and all the very facets of it, the complicated facets of it, I thought you did a really good job at explaining that. So congratulations,
Thank you.
Mr. May.
Thank you. And it means a lot because I'm not a writer and it was a very, very difficult process. And you were asking me before we got on, like what the process was. So for me, I was recording myself, and the way that it worked. So my co-writer is Brian Kaufman, who's a professor of English literature and writing in Rhode Island. So this is what he does. He writes, and he's a comedy writer too. We actually went to a comedy class together, and I actually did a whole routine, and I got some laughs. I'm like, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing. So
I don't know when people must have been high. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I gave them all cannabis before.
So right.
That
helps.
So the way, this is a 2-year process, and this is the way it worked for me. And I don't know anything about writing. I decided to record myself and just send him the recording. He would transcribe it, and that would be the book. And when I read the first iteration of the book, it did not capture my voice. So I was like, it's boring. It read like it was like a school book. Like it's telling you all the science. It was so science.
Textbook, boring, flat. Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't capture my voice. So we sort of scrapped the whole thing and redid it. Not the whole thing, but a lot of it. And what we decided to do, we set up weekly calls and like Zooms or whatever it was. I would record myself. I would transcribe it with software. I would send it to him, and we would go over the chapter and make notes. And now I was explaining things and he's like, oh, that makes more sense. How about this? So it was a very, very tedious process.
Yep.
I just don't know how else to do it. And, but that's what I did for me. So it now captured my voice. It's now, and here's the mandate. My business partner, Eric, said to me, the book has to be so I can read it from when I'm flying from LA to JFK. So it
Mm-hmm.
can't be long. I just want to digest it really, really quickly in whatever amount of hours.
Well, I read it in a night, and I read it last night. And it's, what is it? It's only, I actually was really appreciated the length of it. I think it's 135 pages, but it's big words. The words are very big. No, it's a very digestible experience reading it. So again, when you said, "Oh, can you read my book?" I was like, "Oh God, that's going to take me like a few days," and it didn't. And I read a lot of books, so this was a really good read, and it was a fast read. So I think that was really good advice to you, and it's really interesting to hear about the process of how you did it. I've ghostwritten a lot of books for people, and everybody has a different way. I think you guys did it the way that was most comfortable for you. And I love that kind of scribe technique, they call it, I think, these days, where it's like you kind of dictate your book. A lot of people are dictating books. And so much of it is your own experience. I mean, and not only your own experience, but your own knowledge about the plant that you probably didn't have to do. I mean, you obviously had to do research in your life, but a lot of that is up here in your dome and you just had to get it onto the page. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It was a lot of things that I knew, but I wanted to have references. So if
Right.
I'm just saying something, I've talked about this for so many years, but like, okay, well, how do you know? Well, now we have some references, we have some research, and because Endocanna Health is doing its own references, its own research. Now I can say not only is it like somebody wrote about it, but in practice, this is what I deal with on a daily basis in my business, and I can actually and I always thought about when I read books that have to do with cannabis, one of the things that's always missing for me in these books, and maybe there's other books I hadn't read all of them, it's missing my connection to a personal story.
Yeah.
What I wanted to do with this was I wanted to give people an identity or an archetype that they can relate to. They can relate to, Jim the veteran or Grandma Mary or somebody else. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh shit, I'm just like that too. And
Yep.
and I'm finding out more and more that people have these adverse experiences and they don't talk about it. And I had this experience just recently with a couple of young people. So everybody's like, oh, your DNA test and all that stuff. It's for people who are afraid to consume cannabis, or the old people, or we're dabbers. We don't need that stuff. I know what I've been consuming for years. I know what I need. So I'm talking to these two young guys. Uh, I would say early to mid 20s at most, and they're sort of like DNA test. What doesn't need any. I dab. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. And the one guy said, he goes, yeah, dabbing. And this girl walked over and started saying something about an edible. And the guy said, I dab all day. I can smoke anybody under a table. I don't know if there's a competition for this, but I guess there is. But as soon as I consume an edible, that's it. I'm done. It freaks me out. I have a completely different experience.
Hmm.
Let me tell you about that. So
Yeah.
come into come into my web kind of thing, And so everything is personal, as the show is called, but a lot of people don't talk about these experiences they have with cannabis. Cannabis is safe. Of course it's safe. Nobody ever died from it. Can you get fucked up and have a pretty bad experience? Absolutely. It's a drug. And I just want people to be comfortable relating to those people that actually have similar experiences and to understand there's a reason why. And then you don't have to have that experience. If you understand your blueprint, you understand why, now you can, my analogy that, that people are now using is like, avoid the sharp corners. We're baby proof in the house,
Mhm.
avoid the sharp corners, and that's sort of my analogy for that.
So is that why you wrote the book? Because you felt like you had enough of this. Um, you felt you like there was too many of these people were coming to you in your life that either had adverse reaction to cannabis or thought maybe think they understand something about cannabis that they don't. Or why did you decide to write the book?
Yeah, there's a couple of different reasons. That's a big one. I wanted to get people comfortable talking about adverse effects. Most cannabis publications and books, they talk about growing techniques, how you grow, how to what the endocannabinoid system is and how to use it. But not a lot of people talk about personal experiences that are adverse. So
Yeah.
that's one. The second thing is, in all transparency and honesty, when I started sort of like on the speaking circuit when it comes to cannabis, I had a major, how do I say this, stigma around for myself. I felt because I don't have a PhD or a DR in front or back of my name, I felt that I wouldn't be taken seriously. And I'm like, I've been doing this for a very long time, but I'm I'm not a doctor, I'm not a PhD, I'm not any of those things. And so they started putting me in when I first started with the stoners or the growers. They didn't know where to fit me.
Hmm.
And what I wanted to do was explain in this book that there is a path. Like you don't go to the university, you do now, but when I was starting, there was no university degree in cannabis. There's nothing that it can do. So my degree is street and knowledge. So I wanted to let everybody know the journey. There's a journey, and there can be different journeys for everybody. This is my journey, and it's up to the reader to see, okay, do I have enough experience in with the plant and in life to make it relevant that I have some sort of expertise. And I really feel weird about the whole expertise thing because I think my expertise, and people talk about this, my expertise is extreme curiosity. Like
Hmm.
I am fascinated by this. And if there is a way that I can like download, wear a helmet, and download everything that has to do in real time with your endocannabinoid system and cannabis and drugs and all that stuff that are aside from traditional pharmaceuticals, I would just download all that information because I just hate to study, reading and studying and sitting in class, but I am an insatiable learner and I learn in different ways. So if I can intake that information, if that makes me an expert because I can take that information and kind of regurgitate it in a way that the average person, Bob from Iowa, that I always use, can understand that. If that's a gift, great. Let me share that gift because I don't want it to be too sciencey. And that was one of the, areas where we chiseled and chiseled. It's still a little bit maybe too sciencey from
No,
here, but
I I think it's just the right amount of science. I mean,
thank you.
I would say there's basically three parts of this book. There's the kind of personal story of Len and how Len came to understand cannabis and the impact it's made in your life. Then there's
Yeah,
the what you would call the sciencey part, which is explaining the different endocannabinoid system, the
right.
terpenes, and all these things that we need to understand. And DNA obviously is a huge part of it. And then there's a lot of the personal testimonies or the personal stories of people who have had interactions with cannabis. And like you said, they're kind of, I mean, I'm assuming they're real people, but they're also kind of like
Yeah,
archetypes of different types of people that have experience with cannabis. Like you mentioned somebody that has PTSD. You mentioned somebody, an older person. So I thought that you kind of hit all bases really well. And one of the things I want to talk to you about is there's one point in the book where you say there's like three kind of life-changing events in your life, which I thought was really interesting. And we can sort of touch on those in this interview because I think they kind of explain the different facets of your life and of this book. And the first one is your experience with this woman, LV, last name LV. What is her first name? Is
no, first name is LV Musica
okay, LV
or,
Musica. So
or
I messed that up.
Musica or Musica. Yeah, that's
Yeah, LV Musica, Musikkka. And tell us about your experience with having her. Tell us a little bit about her and then your experience with her and how that kind of altered and shifted was like a
yeah,
big life changing moment for you.
huge, huge. Yeah. So LV. So when I got kicked out of my house by my parents, I became the president of the Cannabis Action Network. So one of the things we did was we try to, legalize the plant. And I was living in Philadelphia, and I decided to hold a rally. And the rally was at Independence Hall in Philadelphia. I mean, I talked about this story before several times, but I just want to kind of frame it. So uh, that's where the Constitution and Declaration of Independence is housed on hemp paper, Liberty Bell, and all that stuff. So it's federal land. And LV was my keynote speaker. And the reason why I met Elvie is because through the Cannabis Action Network, the kids who were supporting her, she traveled with them from, I think she lived in San Francisco at that time. And she came over, and I didn't really know much about Elvie, but they're like, oh, we have a federal patient. She'd be great as a keynote. I'm like, federal patient? What do you mean? And I started, and that's my rabbit hole. I'm like, wait, NIDA actually allowed 16 patients to get federally prescribed cannabis that was cultivated in Mississippi for certain medical conditions. They roll them in it. They put them in a tin. They roll them, I think, in somewhere in Carolina, into little cigarettes, and it's a tin that has a USDA label on it. Legal cannabis that's prescribed. It blew my mind. I was like, well, wait a second. Schedule 1, it's illegal. It clearly says no medicinal use. That's a Schedule 1. But on the other hand, you approved it to 16 people. And I think at that time, there was only 4 or 5 left under that program. And I think Bush Sr. may have discontinued it, or Bush Jr. One of the Bushes discontinued the program. But it blew my mind. Like, you are getting and then so what she did was when she spoke, and she spoke really eloquently, and she consumed cannabis for degenerative glaucoma. And she opened up her tin, and I'll never forget, she lit up a joint, and there's federal rangers with the ranger hats are standing all around there, and she's speaking and she's smoking a joint. And I was like, holy shit, this is an amazing moment. This is the future. This is 1993. So this is not the future, like, and that's fast track.
Yeah.
It's years and years ago. So I was like, that's the first moment. Like, wait, this is amazing. We're going to legalize. Look what she's doing. And then when everybody crashed at my house, and we got woken up to this noise in the morning of something breaking. And I walk over, and Elvie slept in the living room, and I had a sculpture there. I was dating this girl who made the sculpture, and it was this thing with spikes going through it. And I look on the floor, and it's got pieces of the sculpture on the floor. It broke. There's only one spike. So I held on to the spike. I love the spike. I'm like that. But
then you stabbed Elvie with it.
Exactly.
Hit
over the head. Hit over the head and spike. No, but the thing is, she was like so apologetic, and she didn't see it. And this is my moment. This is the pivotal moment because I used cannabis all my life, and I used it quote unquote recreationally, but it helped me with my ADD. And I always knew it helped me with my ADD, but I'm like, maybe I'm making it up. Maybe I'm just convincing myself because I like getting, getting high. I like it. Maybe it's not real. Medicine, I don't really know. Is it really medicine? There's not a lot of information to that point. This is like early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And when I saw this in front of my eyes, she lit up a joint. I think it was a joint, and she smoked, and she could see again. Like her muscles in her for glaucoma loosened up, and she could see, still with the Coke bottle glasses. And she was apologetic, but she could see. And I'm like, wait a second, this is real medicine. I just saw it, no pun intended, in front of my eyes, that she is no longer blind, and she could see. And that was a pivotal moment in my life for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally see that. And she sounds like an amazing person. She's still with us, right?
Yeah. I think she lives somewhere in Oregon, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in
of course she does.
Pacific Northwest.
You'd want to put her there instead of Idaho. All right, and she's probably smoking stuff that's a lot better than the stuff that the government was letting her smoke, which was like basically grown in that one place, that one test facility.
Oh, yeah. In Mississippi. Mississippi. So that stuff has up to 7% THC, more like 4% THC. And there's every study that was done using that is not a relevant study because you can't replicate that cannabis that they were using there. Wherever they were growing there by the government, it's nothing that we can get in a dispensary anywhere. So even it doesn't make any sense.
It's like, strange. All right. The other moment, and this we have talked about, and that is when you discover hip hop. And I didn't realize that you kind of traded in your your Led Zeppelin t-shirts for sweatsuits, and you started walking around, and you were something like a hip hop DJ guy.
Wasn't much of a DJ guy, but I was a break dancer.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
That was my
This
thing.
is another thing we share in common. We're both breaking.
I took on the look though. It's so ridiculous, man. I wish my parents have pictures somewhere.
Just Adidas sweatshirts, suits, and stuff like that.
Well, so it started with Adidas, and it was Adidas all the way through. So Adidas fat New Yorker laces with the sock that I could put in the front of where the front of the shoe is. So it would the tongue of the shoe would stick out. And then I figured out how to do multi-color New Yorkers. So I have different colors and different shoes and all that stuff. Nice. So I was really into it.
Don't you kind of wish you hung on to those sneakers? Are probably worth a fortune now.
I know, right?
Right. And then
I used to have the first generation Jordans too. I didn't think much of it.
Yeah, and of course.
Now they're like $10,000 or whatever.
And then were you wearing gold?
Oh, was I wearing gold? Yes. I don't know if it's in the book or not. I don't think so. But
I don't think so.
My high school graduation picture. So I have a mullet. I have a little bit of a mustache. They used to call me Len P. Rico because I look Puerto Rican, I guess.
Right.
So I had a mullet, and I had
before people woke.
I mean, you know that movie "I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker," where the guy OG'd, he over gold and died. That was me. Dude, I had like 6 gold chains. I had a Playboy bunny. I had a card. I had a I had a bunch of gold chains. But I switched from Adidas to MCM. So I had an MCM sweatsuit with snakeskin on the sides and Cazal glasses as well. So I wore them too.
Oh snap!
So cheesy.
That's really going deep. That's deep. So, but hip hop was a huge influence in your life. And what do you think it was that resonated so much with you about it? Aside from the fact that it's just so freaking good, the lifestyle too.
It was that like the music connected with me immediately. I really don't know why the music connected with me. It was just like, that's it. It just, wow. I can't believe this.
You are this Lithuanian kid, basically. I mean, you're American by this point, but you grew up in Lithuania, or you were born in Lithuania, and then you grew up. I didn't realize you grew up like in a lot of different places until your parents settled in.
No, it was the immigration process. Not that I grew up. So what happened was, because in the late 70s up to the very early 80s, I believe that Jews were allowed to leave the Soviet Union for a very brief period of time. And you're basically sitting. So my parents were sitting on suitcases waiting to get approved. And it's like, my dad worked for this, he was an engineer, and he worked for this military kind of whatever facility, and they were going to let him out. And the way you get let out, and we finally were allowed to leave. So I left with my parents and my mom's parents, my 2 grandparents. So the journey, I think there's a movie or a documentary about that on Amazon. So the journey was like this. If I remember, I was like 6 years old, so I'm, bits and pieces. But you get on a train somewhere from Lithuania to another city. You throw all your stuff, and you can only take your suitcase, and that's it. You left everything, all your life belongings, every little thing you leave behind. You can't take cash with you. So I think you can take up to $500, and that's it. And you go on, and you go. So the train goes from there to Poland, from Lithuania to Poland. You get another train. And then there's military guys, I remember, with machine guns that come on. They take you off the train. You throw your stuff off. You get another train, and you go to Austria, Vienna. And we live there until people keep interviewing and making sure that we're not military spies or all that stuff. They keep coming in and doing that. So we stayed there for weeks until we were allowed to leave again. And we go to Italy. And we lived in Italy for like 6 months. And my parents had jobs. My dad worked at a car wash. Granted, he's an engineer with like master's degrees and all that stuff, wash cars. And my mom picked up the language Italian really quickly. So she became a tour guide. That's a multi-language Russian and an Italian tour guide. And that's what he did. And we sold shit at the Italian bazaar. And I remember there was this little Italian guy that really liked my mom, and he would always buy cappuccino. He's like, "Hey, for bambino, cappuccino," and all this stuff. So yeah, that was the journey, and we waited, and then we got whatever permission we had to get to fly to New York, JFK. And then we got into whatever car that was there and drove us to Philly. I'm like, why didn't we stay here? New York, man, look at all these buildings. And we drove to freaking Philly and lived in a basement.
Oh man. Now, how old were you when you got to Philly?
7.
So you remember it. You remember all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then how old were you when you discovered hip hop? Was that when you were in high school?
No, that was so hip hop was the 8th. I think I was in 8th grade. So seventh grade, I was super into like rock. And 8th grade, I was into rock too. And I was dating this rock chick too. And I had a bandana tied around my leg and did all that stuff. And then I think I was cannabis was a big part of it. So I was consuming cannabis. Yes, high school, I definitely got into it, but I started in 8th grade. Whenever really got deep into it, whenever I saw Beat Street, that was my moment.
Thing. Yeah, that was
when I saw Beat Street, I cried about Ramon and all that stuff. And I'm like, these guys can break dance. We're doing the same thing. So we would put cardboards in the middle of the street, and we would try to. I bought a box radio and then we would play whatever. I mean, it was very hard to find hip hop back in the day, but whatever we could find, and we would try to break dance.
It was so hard to find it. You had to make tapes. At least what I had to do is I had to listen to the radio and press record when the hip hop show came on. Right, that was the only way.
That's it. That's
exactly no other way. You couldn't even buy the record. Yep. Yeah, it was. People don't realize how hard it was to find it, and particularly hard, I think, for people who aren't like in the community. You know, like if you were like an outsider, like I was living in Westchester, like near the Bronx, but not quite in the Bronx. You know, the Bronx kids were like trading mixtapes and stuff. But for me, I was just like, how do I find this stuff? Like, I don't have any connection to that. All right. So hip hop, we talked exhaustively about hip hop, and we'll continue to talk about his top.
Well, I just want to say the tape thing, but that sort of got me into all that stuff because I couldn't sleep. I think I talked about this before on a show, but my mom was allergic to air conditioning, so she said. So Philly summers are like New York summers, very hot and humid. I was allowed to put a fan in my window in my room that would blow hot, humid air back in the room. I couldn't sleep. I hated it. And I still, to this day, unless I'm exhausted, I hate going to sleep. So I would lay there. I have a radio, and I had that the cassette recorder that had the little orange button that you would press down and hold to record, and you can let go of it. And I didn't have to like stop. You know, you can just press a record and let go. And then, so I would start making mixtapes. So at night, whatever radio station I could find, I'll record this, record that. And I started making mixtapes. And I would have mixtapes and I would give them to people. And that's how I got really into music. And
that's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, this is later, but I didn't realize you DJ'd at a strip club. You didn't tell me that part.
the catwalk.
At the catwalk.
Yes.
So you would do the girls tell you different things, like you got to play this song for me when I get on stage?
Yeah. So they would, and then it's the typical songs. You Shook Me All Night Long was a big one, but the biggest song there I remember was Pour Some Sugar on Me by Def Leppard.
Oh my God.
Love that. That's the premiere. Everybody give it up for Candy with Pour Some Sugar on Me.
Now, were you the guy that had to talk to? Like, hey, everybody, stage 4, Candy.
That's it.
This is what I hear. I have never been to a strip club, but this is what I hear they say. They're like,
you make the announcement. Don't forget to tip your waitress.
Oh my God, that's crazy that you had that job. So you were a full-fledged. This is why we relate to each other. We DJ'd, we broke dance in the past tense. We did some break dancing. Were you a floor guy, or did you do the electric boogie, pop and lock?
More pop and lock.
Okay.
Floor, I did a little bit of floor, and my move was the worm. That was my go-to.
Worm. That's a good move. I love the worm. I think it's one of the few things that I could do. I mean, I could never do it now, but I could do it back in the day. It hurts. I've tried to do the worm recently, and it does
hurt. And my daughter somewhere has a recording of me doing the worm.
Oh my God!
that she sent to her friends.
From when you were a kid?
No.
Oh wow! Recently?
Within the last few years.
Because I have a video that somehow still exists of me breakdancing when I was 16 years old, which maybe I'll share with you one day, which is kind of incredible to see, A, what I used to look like because I weighed about 4 pounds, but B, I couldn't believe what I was able to do back then. I mean, I still I'll still break it out the occasional, school fundraising dance party. I'll break out a few moves. The floor will clear. But were you clearing floors and stuff? We've never compared. We've never done breakdance moves together. We should get it together. It's be the saddest moment in the world to watch two old Jewish guys breakdance. But I still got it in some ways.
I probably can pop a little bit, but the worm, they were impressed. The kids were impressed, but I could still do the worm.
That is incredible. The worm's a great move.
But then I got into, so it was a combination of breakdancing and roller skating. So we got into roller skating, and I got really into roller skating. I had no idea this was a black thing on the West Coast.
Right.
No idea. I didn't know anything about it because we skated together, black, white, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And that was my thing. So I would have, every year I would have birthday parties at the roller skating rink and all that stuff. I hooked up with my first how do I say this, third base, not the group, but with a girl.
Okay.
In the
roller rink.
Yeah, in the back of the roller rink.
Damn.
There was a spot in the back of the roller rink that had rolled up carpet, and there was a spot. It was dark, and on the back where the carpet was, that's where you can hook up. So here's the move. The move is
don't get too graphic here.
No.
Okay.
The move is how you know the girl likes it.
Okay.
So it's an all guys skate, right? So when it's all guys skate, all the girls come off, and the guys skate around, and you can do your shuffle move or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then you put your hand out. And if a girl smacks your hand, the next skate after that is couple skate. So you would skate off, and you would, if you're good, you can skate backwards, and a girl would skate forwards, and that's your hookup move. So that's
a good move. I never did the roller skating thing. I did rollerblading. We were into ice skating, but yeah, I remember roller skating being a huge thing, and clubs would open up and play, and they would play some good music, man. That was fun. That's what kids did before you could go to a club and dance. All right. So the third major impact is when you discovered DNA, and not just DNA.
I discovered DNA, by the way. So for anybody.
Yeah, you just discovered DNA, and that's one of the great things about you. And I think people don't really recognize that you were the first person. In fact, it was called. It was for a while. It was DLA because it was Len, where it was a D Len A, but then they changed it. I don't know. I'm trying to think of how they work your name into DNA. It was DNA. It was DNA for a while, but then they changed it back. Anyway, point is that you didn't discover DNA, but you discovered in your life the impact that someone's genetic profile can have in their experience with cannabis. Tell me when you had that experience and why that was so revolutionary to you, like it just changed your whole life. Your whole life went in this direction.
So when I moved to LA, I got into the dispensary space. I was a partner in several dispensaries. They were called Kush Kingdom. So one of my partners, we would smoke together, and he's like, "What is that?" I'm like, sativa. I didn't know. All I knew was sativa and indica at that time. It's sativa. And he's like, "Oh, no. I can't smoke that. It puts me to sleep." I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
No. I think you got it wrong. Indica is down, sativa's up. It's like the Forrest Whitaker meme that one of his eyes is sativa, one of his eyes is indica. If you ever saw that,
that's hilarious.
And he goes, "Not for me. It's the opposite, man. Like I can smoke indicas all day and I'm up, but as soon as I smoke a sativa, it's like, well, that's weird. I don't understand how that's even possible." So that's when my spider sense started tingling, and that's when I started hyper focusing, and I started noticing. And sort of in my mind at first, two people will come in with the same symptomatic conditions, even in hangouts and all that, and they would consume the same cannabis, and they would have different experiences from time to time. So I'm like, what is that? And I started obsessing over that. And I really started thinking that it was the cannabis itself, because the way that back in the day before testing was a thing, cannabis worked like this. So you would grow your cannabis, and somebody would bring it, or you grow it yourself, and you sort of know what the strain or chemovar is, what the chemical variety of that cultivar is supposed to be, but you also know what's on the shelf. There's no metric system or anything like that, seed to cell tracking, and you're like, you smell it, you break it open. I'm like, nah, I can smell it. Smells, it's got like a little bit of fruitier smell. OG, we're missing OGs. Like call it Casey Jones or something like that, which is actually, a strain. And what's missing, and it's been a good seller and similar. Like I can see it smells like that, but we don't know what the hell it is really. We think
Right.
it's so I was always like, it's got to be the strains themselves. And then I came across a video because I was researching. I'm trying to figure it out. I came across a video from this guy named Kevin McKernan, who was one of the first people to genetically sequence cannabis, and I just became fascinated. And I would email him, and then long story short, is we met, and I ended up working with Kevin for a while, medicinal genomics, doing exactly that, genetic sequencing of the plants, and that was my entryway. And I loved his stories. He started doing this. I'm not sure if I'm telling a story that is not public, but he started doing this because his father got diagnosed with cancer, and he worked in the Human Genome Project. And he's not the only person. There's other people that did genetic sequencing of cannabis, but that's the one I found. So what he did was he wanted to see if, based on his experience with the Human Genome Project, if he could actually sequence cannabis the same exact way and figure out what's right for his father. And they wouldn't let him do it in the U.S.
Mm.
So he took genetic material. He flew to Amsterdam and he got the genetic material. He got a bunch of toothbrushes and he got the genetic material on toothbrushes, and he would do the sequencing in his hotel room in Amsterdam. It was
Great.
amazing. I love
Yeah.
the story. I was like, man, this is brilliant. It was just like this thing that connected with me, and that's kind of how I joined. And I started realizing that you have the plant genetics, and I learned a shitload about that. And they taught me how to extract DNA from plants. So now I understood, yes, there is a difference between, it doesn't matter what you call it, it's all the components of the plant are different based on the genetics of the plant. And then I started learning because they had a parent company called Cortigen Life Sciences, and I started learning about pharmacogenetics or pharmacogenomics, and really understanding what is that, what is a genotype, and I dove deep into that. And now we had the human stuff side, and we had the plants side, and I was like, can you merge the two together? If you know you have plant genetics, you know you have human genetics, some of them may interact. And they really didn't want to engage in that. They were saying it's years in the future. We're not ready. It's not good information. We don't have clinical studies. So I was always the kind of person, the kid, like, how you ask permission or you ask forgiveness. Well, I
Mm.
was always ask forgiveness, and don't worry about permission. So I'm like, you know what? Why can't I do this? Let's just do this. And I was lucky enough that I surrounded myself with a few really, really brilliant people, geneticists and PhDs that really know this stuff well. And I learned. I can learn fairly quickly if somebody communicates to me in a way that connects, and I just absorb that information. And then that
Yeah.
was that was it.
That's cool, man. And so you found this passion, and made this whole company out of it. Are you really you're not the only person working with DNA and
No.
genetics, but you're definitely in the cannabis space. There's not a lot of people who are doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah, I would say we probably started this industry in the cannabis space, and there are other companies, and that's great. I welcome companies to come in and do this, because the more companies that get involved, the more legitimacy it builds to the entire industry. So, cannabis is personal, and people are validating that. So I'm happy to come on board. We're still going to be light years ahead of you, but come on board
Yeah.
because
You're
I'm
going to
already.
lose. You're going to lose, but come on and join the race.
Yeah, just come on board. The more you talk about it, the better it is. But I tend to be competitive as a person, so I'm always looking to see who's doing what. And we had some incidents where I had I'm not going to mention names of companies, but there was a couple individuals that worked with me
Mm.
initially when I my first iteration of this company, and they ended up we ended up parting ways. I
Mhm.
thought it was in a good way, and they basically launched a competitor company
Oh,
to us.
wow.
So until they make a dent, we'll let them go. But that's they know you guys know who you are.
Yeah. If you're listening now, we're coming after you. We're doing some worms on you. Um, All right. Well, the book is called Making Cannabis Personal. I really recommend people, if people want to get it, is it available now? Is it on, you have to back order it on?
Yeah, you get it on Amazon. If you go to Amazon, it's Making Cannabis Personal. Right now, we're just finalizing. We're getting some quotes for the book and stuff. So once that's out, you'll get it's back ordered, on Amazon. But you'll get your not a, you got the advanced reader copy, but you'll get the actual copy when it's printed. And there's a couple publishers that have some interest. Besides my publisher, they've some bigger publishers approached them, and so maybe I'll have better distribution in the Targets, the WalMarts, everywhere where people buy books.
Right. Well, people want this information. There's a lot of really great personal stories in there, and there's one story that made me laugh. Can you? And I don't want you have to buy the book to hear most of them, but there is one story that you have to tell, and that is the story of the time Mickey Rourke and you connected, or Mickey Rourke connected with you. Just give a little play there.
Man, I wish I could. I'm going to try to paint a visual picture.
Okay.
So the way this happened was our guest Danny Hester, who was Mr. Olympia. He was
Olympia. Yep.
Training Mickey Rourke. So Mickey was coming to this house that my friends had. There was this cannabis club up in the Hollywood Hills, and he wouldn't introduce me because I made this formulation for recovery, and Danny really wanted Mickey to try it. So he's like, "I'll come to the house, and I want to show him the house, and whatever you'll talk." I'm like, "Okay." So he's texting me. He's like, "Hey, where are you?" So I'm waiting for you in the house.
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm here." I'm like, "Where?" "Here." I think I told this story before, but I look out, I go on the balcony, and I see Danny in the middle of the street. I'm like, "Over here, man. I'm waving to you over here."
Right.
He goes, "Oh shit." Mickey went to the house next door. They kind of all look the same.
Right.
I'm like, "Oh, well, tell him to come out. He's using the bathroom." He dropped the deuce.
Tried to do somebody else's stuff. I guess if Mickey Rourke comes to your house and says, "Hey, do you mind if you use the bathroom?" You're like, "All right, it's Mickey fucking Rourke."
He walked into somebody's house.
Oh, the door was open?
Yeah, I guess so.
Holy shit! All right.
So that was the beginning of it. He comes up. He looks. He's a very interesting, very eccentric looking guy. Really tight pants. Like he's pretty built, but he's a very really interesting looking guy. I would urge people to go Google and see what Mickey Rourke looks like. And he's really into his dogs and all that stuff too. So he really nice guy and great storyteller. And we talked about weed, and he started telling me about how he has a penthouse. I think he still has it somewhere in New York, overlooking Central Park, and everybody would come over to his house to get high and all that stuff. So he would have all these stories, and we'd start talking. I was asking about. Sometimes I'm just like dumb, and I ask questions that are personal questions. I don't think that anything of it. I asked him about his face and what happened. And he was telling me that he fell off a motorcycle and he had reconstructive surgery. Then he went to Russia to box because they love him there. He was a professional boxer, and he got banged up and he had to get it fixed, and they messed up the fixing of the first surgery. I don't know. That was his story. So we started talking about boxing, and he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, that was great. You're a boxer." He goes, "Yeah, I just signed up for another match." I'm like, "Really?" And I want to say he was 60. I don't know how old he was, 63, something like that. And the guy he was fighting, he was supposed to be in Germany, is like 30 years younger.
Jeez.
I'm like, "Oh shit." I'm like, "You got to be careful, man, so you don't get beat up."
Yeah.
He goes, No. He goes, "I have a whole plan." So I'm standing next to him.
Yeah.
So he goes, open hand, no fist, but he goes, "So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jab, and he's flinging his hands in it. He's showing me how to do it. He's going to jab, and then I'm going to give him a liver shot. And with his open hand, by the way, his fingers are probably like 4 of my fingers put together. He's got these big, thick fingers. And he hits me with an open hand in my
He didn't mean to hit you, right? Or did he?
I don't know. You got to ask Mickey. He didn't hit me like drop me hard, but he made contact enough where I could feel it.
And you went down. You took a knee.
I was like, dude, really?
So Nicky Rourke basically knocked you out. He hit you.
He hit me with enough force for me to feel.
I mean, that's a kidney shot. That's illegal in boxing. He gave you a kidney shot.
Oh, no, that's legal, man. He can do that's the Bernard Hopkins De La Hoya shot where he hit him he gave him a liver shot, then was a delayed reaction, and he dropped, and now he's knocked him out. Once he hits somebody in the liver, in boxing, if you hit him right, they're not going to get up.
Crazy. Yeah.
So that was my Mickey Rourke story. And then he ended up going, and then he was like, is this going to freak me? He took the recovery product. He's like, is this going to freak me out? Am I going to get paranoid? I'm like, nah, man, it's all good. And then he was sitting in the car, and I came out. He's like, that's good, man. I like it. It's good.
You're like, oh, good. Cool. All right. So you hooked the brother up. All right. Let's move on to the other portions of our amazing podcast. If I do say so myself, thank you. But Len, that was really fascinating.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you going over the book. I got to get more used to it. I'm very used to speaking about stuff that we do, but when it comes to my personal stuff, like I feel a little bit awkward about it, but I have to do a better job. So
but Len, everything is personal.
Everything is personal. That's right. So
but this is a good start. It's a good conversation. It gets I'll now that I know, this is blood money for me too, because now that I know stuff about you that that other people might not unless they read this book, I'll be popping it out every so often. I mean, I don't have a book about me that you can just pick up and be like, oh, so I hear that you did this. So I'm gonna, believe me, I'll be referencing this book a lot. But anyway, it was a pleasant surprise. Not a surprise. I knew it was going to be good, but actually it was much more readable and engaging than even I thought it would be. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm really proud of it. I think it's a big accomplishment. Something I really wanted to do. Okay. And it's
you've got one more book than I do, and I'm a professional writer. So there we go. The fucking I've been doing my whole life. All right. So we're going to talk about, before we wrap up here, we want to do one of our favorite things, which is to transition into another segment in which we talk about music. And you had a really good topic today that you want to bring up, which is you're in a fire. You're burning. Your house is burning down the house.
Yes. Which
house is burning down?
Which 5 records you would save in a fire?
Right. So your house is burning to the ground.
Yes.
You got a minute to get out of there. Forget your dogs and your cats. You got to grab some records.
The records.
Records are important. No, my cats come too. The kids, maybe the kids too.
By the way, before we get in there, can I just tell a really, really quick story? Just of my stupidity. Just of my stupidity.
Yeah.
Really, really quick. And so I was hiking, which I do on a daily basis, and I was rushing. I misstepped, and I stepped into a ditch, and I rolled my ankle over.
Oh man!
Somebody can visualize it. And so it rolled over to the right, clockwise, and I went back. And I knew something was up because, you trip, but this one kind of hurt more than usual. So I kind of limped back, and I actually went to happy hour with my friend, and I could feel it. It was still in a sock and a shoe, and it was blowing up, and I could feel it. But, I had a drink or two of smoke, and then, I didn't feel it. And I got home, I took off my shoe, and it was just like, it blew up.
Damn.
And it hurt. And people were saying, you got to get it looked at. It looks more serious than just like it rolled your ankle. I'm like, okay. Well, I haven't used my insurance card in, 15 years. I don't see doctors.
I noticed that.
I don't go to urgent care. I've never been. So I had no idea. So I called my insurance company and I asked them, I was like, well, first of all, can I just go to any urgent care? Like, well, yeah, as long as it's, it's approved, you can use it. You have PPO, so you can go. And I asked them if I have to make an appointment. And the lady was literally laughing at me. Sure. That's the whole point of urgent care. You show up. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I thought I had to make an appointment.
Right. So welcome to medicine in 2021. Yeah, no, we've talked about healthcare. You're not a big believer in traditional medicine, particularly, or conventional medicine.
Well, this is the point. So just to finish this story really quick. So they took X-rays, not broken. They think that it's a little tear in my in my ligament, which is fine. It'll heal. I'm taking my cannabis for it. Uh, it's like from what it was yesterday to what it is today, it's night and day. It's turning all different colors right now. I got some black, I got some purple, I got some all different
Pretty,
colors.
pretty.
Yeah,
It's
it's
beautiful.
pretty. It's like rainbow of darkness of some sorts. But here's the thing. So they look at it, and the doctor comes up to me, and I'm gingerly walking. I'm fine. They wrapped it for me and all that stuff. And she goes, "Hey, do you want any pain meds?"
Mm.
I was like, "Really?" I'm like, "It's that easy. It's that easy to go. You guys don't even suggest CBD. It's not even
Right.
psycho. You don't have CBD here that you can suggest to
That's the
somebody.
default.
Forget it's cannabis, but you're gonna push an opioid on me in 3 seconds just because I
Mm.
have an injury. Like I just that's the reason why
You don't
you know
go
I
to
can't.
medicine. Yeah, every
Yeah,
time I go to the doctor, I went to the doctor recently about some of my sinuses, and I'm much more, by the way, a guy that goes to the doctor a lot. So, which is not a great thing actually. That I'm not particularly proud of, but so yeah, I said I had some problems with my sinuses. They gave me this horrible test where they had to put this probe down my nose, and
oh,
they had to numb the back without even saying it was going to be weird. They had to numb the back of my throat, but that feels freaking weird when they numb the back of your throat. You swallow, you can't feel swallowing. It's a
oh,
bizarre feeling that scared the crap out of me for like 5 minutes. They left me alone while the medication was taking effect. And I'm starting to like try
oh,
to swallow and I can't swallow.
oh. The
And I'm,
anxiety gene kicked in.
yeah, the anxiety gene's like, and then I'm like, I can't, you swallow. I can't feel anything. And then they shove this thing down your nose. And then they're like, yeah, they're like, we don't know yet. You probably should have this test and this test. And then, they're basically telling me you're going to need to have sinus surgery. If you continue coming back to us, we're going to probably, they're just based. And it's like, I don't think I need sinus surgery.
Yeah.
It was just like, there's always more and more and more. And I don't know what that's all about. It's never about just wellness. It's always about like adding on these procedures and medicine and medical treatments and like that I don't want to have. I just want to like, can you suggest a toxic medicine that I can take to deal with this sign? So anyway, that's why I've been asking you recently about, and that's why I've been so fascinated by these doctors that you've had come on the show that are, what do you call them? They're not,
Integrative functional
they're
medicine.
integrative functional medicine doctors. Yeah.
Well, that's the whole thing. You just hit the nail on the head. So first of all, it's they want to give you more drugs, and this is my feeling on this. And I have many conversations with doctors. Sometimes doctors don't know. Most of the time, they don't know. What they're trying to do is they have sort of a checklist of what they think it is. So they'll try. Let's try this. Oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
not that. Okay, off the list. Let's try this. It's not this. And the goal is we're going to try to cause the least amount of harm
Mm-hmm.
as we possibly can to the patient while we're trying to figure out what it's not so we can be left with what it may be. But during that process, you've had all these procedures, you have to have medication. It's all billing and billing and billing and billing and billing. And then some of these medications that they're giving you can create adverse effects. And it's like,
You have to take medicine for that adverse effect. Yeah.
it's a ridiculous thing. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So we can go on to that.
okay,
All
back
right.
to the music.
Back to the music. It always ends with music for us.
Yes.
That's the only thing that keeps us sane. So you're talking about you're in a burning house and you have to grab some records. And I guess you're grabbing these records because in this universe that we're inheriting here, these records are completely irreplaceable. Not that you can find them online. Back in the old days, but maybe it was an original cut you had of the record. Anyway,
There you go. Let's just go with the rarity. And by
it's
the
a
way,
rare record. Yes.
yeah, we'll suspend disbelief for a minute. But here's and by the way, if you grab records but you don't have a record player, that's a whole thing.
That's a whole. There's something good about you.
But it's okay. But this was my struggle with it because I'll give you an example. So Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. That's
Right.
a record that I would normally want to grab because it's a classic record I listened to 1,000 times. However, I thought to myself, I've listened to that 1,000 times. More.
Yeah.
Am I really going to take this record and listen to it over and over again?
Right. It's almost like you're tired of it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So it took me. It
That's
was
hard.
really, yeah. It was. That's the experience I had. So I was trying to figure out, ask myself this: what can I get the most mileage out of, where I would probably not get sick of as much of that record, And yeah, so that was kind of my criteria that I listened to a lot, but not too much. And then I would
Yeah, I
listen to-
mean, the problem is that I listened to things so much when I was a kid that I've ruined them now in my grown up life. But sometimes I'll discover a record that I listened to a lot as a kid that I kind of forgot about. And then I'm like, oh my God, I loved this record when I was a kid. Now I remember why. And part of it's nostalgic for me. But
yeah.
well, all right, what's your first one? And then I'll take one.
Yeah. So my
Dark
first
Side of the
one,
Moon?
I'm cheating on the first one. I'll tell you why I'm cheating on it because I was trying to, it's Led Zeppelin, but I
Mhm.
was trying to figure out which album. So I was going through, all right, my favorite Zeppelin album is Zeppelin 2. But man, it's missing this song and this song. So Led Zeppelin released something called Mothership.
Yeah,
Mothership is basically
all their best.
greatest hits kind of thing, which in a way, so I cheated on that one. So I'm grabbing
Well,
Led
that's
Zeppelin.
okay because I cheated also because um, I love the Beatles. You know, if I had to like, and again, that's kind of again, the Beatles are the type of music that I kind of ruined as a kid because now it's hard for me to like listen to a lot of Beatles just because I listened to Beatles and it's all I ever listened to for like 5 years of my life as a child.
Right.
Um, but that album, so that is hard. So I felt like I had to put the Beatles album that is there from like 1967, their later year album.
Is that the red one?
Yeah, the red one, right?
Yeah.
Because that has all the great songs. Now, you know, do I love Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band? Do I love Abbey Road? Of course.
Yeah.
But that song kind of captures a lot of the songs that I love from like 67
I
on.
love that. Yeah, that makes total sense to me.
Okay, so that's my cheat. That's my one cheat. I'll probably have. And then I did best of. I probably do all the best of records.
But I did one. I allowed myself
You
that
did.
one.
Yeah, and honestly, like some best ofs aren't. I don't even like that much. So
Okay. So yours is the red.
the Red
Beatles.
Beatles one.
Right. Okay. So my next one is.
What the heck?
Is that me?
No, that was me, but I thought my phone was off. All right.
That's okay. It's very unprofessional.
Very unprofessional. This is amateur hour here. Of course, my wife calling from the airport.
Hurry up.
Yeah.
All right. So my next one is a double EP that came together.
Yeah.
It's the Alice in Chains Sap and Jar of Flies EP.
Oh, that's good.
I love both of those albums, and I'm so glad that they made it as a. Probably have it somewhere back here, but they made it as a double thing. Love that album. I probably could have just gotten Alice in Chains Unplugged, which has most of the songs anyway. But
speaking of Unplugged, no, I'm not going to put on my 5. But man, do I love the Nirvana Unplugged record.
Oh, it's amazing. It's my favorite Nirvana album.
Definitely the best Nirvana album.
Yeah, I love
right,
Lead Belly. The one he did with Where's My Lady Sleep?
Right.
That Lead Belly cover. Man, it's fantastic.
I think I love Billy Joel. This is my old stuff. So I love Billy Joel.
Yes.
So I think I'm going to put The Stranger on because I also love The Stranger.
Okay.
So Billy Joel is hard and I don't actually like the best of Billy Joel because it has stuff like, Uptown Girl and stuff on it, which is just like the worst song ever written. So Billy Joel, you have to be careful because he wrote a lot of super corny stuff. But The Stranger is like kind of a work of art. It's between The Stranger and 52nd Street. But I think I'm going to go with Glass Houses is really good. I'm going to go with The Stranger. Okay, so that's my second thing.
So what's the big hit on that?
The Stranger has
it's not Piano Man. That's
Bottle of Red, Bottle of White.
Okay.
It has Moving Out. It has.
That's right. Moving Out.
Yeah.
That's the hit. Yep.
That's the hit.
Okay, cool. I went. The next one is Rage Against the Machine, the very first one, which is self-titled. I mean, I can never get enough of that. And every time I will work out, anytime I need energy, that's my go-to.
All right.
Rage Against the Machine.
I love Rage Against the Machine. Rage Against the Machine is a band that I did not discover the first time around. That is a band that I discovered through the ears of my child because he loved, I don't think he still does as much as he used to, but he loved Rage Against the Machine so much. And we would listen to all their music. And I just was like, how did I miss this first time around? And the reason I missed it was because I was listening to things like Low End Theory like that was which was probably around probably a little earlier, Low End Theory.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that on your list? Low End Theory. I know we talk about that record.
That's my next one.
All right. So we have a tie
Yes.
on Low End Theory. I mean, we've talked about that record a lot. It is really, and what else can you say?
I mean, out of hip hop, that's what I was trying to. I sat down. I'm like, okay, I have A Nation of a Million. Like I have Public Enemy. I've all these different. I have Wu Tang, 36 Chain. Like these are albums that I would listen to all the time. But if somebody were to ask me, what is the one album that I can listen to from beginning to end and never, ever, ever, ever get sick of? And it's Low End Theory.
No, I've never gotten sick of any song on Low End Theory. Like I've listened to it 1,000 times. I mean, I've listened to every song 1,000 times. And I can't say the same of like some of the Biggie records and the Biggie records are uneven because there's some songs that I don't really like on the Biggie record. That's like a record was like the whole thing works. So that's just, it's the greatest. Midnight Marauders is pretty freaking good too, but
amazing.
Low End Theory was the first. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm going to go with that one too. So we got a tie on that one. So what's your next one?
Well, my next one is that's number 5. I think it's the last
one.
Oh,
okay. So we're done.
Well, no, the one more.
Oh, that okay.
The next one is number 5.
Number 5.
This is a really weird one, but I love this album, and it makes me sad when I listen to it, and I like that feeling. It's 07 Simple Things.
Oh, see, I don't know if I know the record. I know 07 and I know they're great songs.
This album is the greatest because this is the one that Sia was on, like 3 songs. And
right.
The way Sia performs, there's a song called Destiny and Simple Things. I mean, it's just an amazing album.
I love Destiny, and there's been a lot of versions of Destiny. Yeah. I love Destiny. So In the Waiting Line is incredible.
Yeah.
Is that on that record?
Yep. Yeah.
I love that. In that genre, kind of, I think the one that I love the most, well, it's not really the same genre, but maybe it's similar, is the Avalanches' first record. I don't know if you've listened to, I've listened to that record a million times. There's something about that record, and I was very happy to hear that I am not alone in thinking that is one of the greatest records ever made. What's his name? Questlove.
Yep.
Questlove went on his podcast recently and said this is like one of his top 10 favorite albums of all time, which is saying a lot because Questlove probably has a much deeper understanding of all types of music than I do. But that record is so innovative. And if anybody has not listened to that Avalanche's first record, it is, I mean, they use 3,000 samples. Yeah. There's not one part of that record's original, which sounds incredible. And it is incredible how they were able to pull that off. I think it took them like 18 months to 2 years to make that record, to just make all the samples work together in that kind of flowing way. And the samples they pick are just from another universe. I think because they're Australian and they had no connection whatsoever to American music and well, they had connection, but they didn't really like live here. So like their choices are just so bizarre and interesting. And anyway, love that record. So
I love that record too.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. Good choice, man. Love it.
All right. Well, that concludes part 2 of our episode, which always means that we're going to end with I added that echo at the end.
We don't have to pay royalties for that, do we?
Oh, we probably do. I'm surprised that we haven't been taken off of YouTube for that. I guess that guy is not Danny and the teeny boppers are not.
Don't mention.
Oh yeah.
But the YouTube thing is really funny because sometimes our things get through, sometimes they don't. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get that whole thing.
It's like I remember one time I put something on that had like a Michael Jackson, like the Jacksons will come after you. Like you're not going to have anything. But yeah, you're right. Just certain labels, certain people are much more like litigious. I don't know, man. I noticed that Questlove doesn't play any music clips on his show, which is
he does.
He does. He didn't play anything from the Avalanches, which is weird.
Nope, but he does. He does play clips in the show, and sometimes he's like, "Oh, we're gonna don't stop playing that. But he does. He plays clips sometimes.
All right, well that's good because I listen to the show called Hit Parade, which I love, and he plays massive amount of clips, and that's not like some underground, podcast. That's like a big podcast. So I guess there's a gray area with it.
I don't understand. I mean, I get it where if you're playing somebody's song, you want to pay them for it.
Yeah.
But if you're playing a few seconds or whatever it is of a song that whets people's beak and gives them I want to hear more. We're actually helping artists.
Right.
There's nobody's going to record that and say, 30 seconds of a song is the song. No, you want to dig a little bit deeper. So I don't understand why they wouldn't.
Yeah, that's Schoolie agreeing. He didn't get mad at us when we played his records.
Not at all. He's happy. We got to have him back.
I know. I know. I just finally got my, if Schoolie's listening, I finally got my edibles sent to me. And I'm going to send him a little care package.
Well, okay. Yeah. He enjoyed the package that I sent him. So thank you, Schoolie, for the shout. All right. So this is going to be really weird. My daughter shared this with me.
Oh, wait.
I just think
this is so funny that this literally was played on this must be like the song right now because my daughter literally played this for me.
So you have heard.
I heard it today, like for the first time.
All right. This is
good.
All right. So I'm going to play it. I think it's pretty good.
And apparently it's a big TikTok hit, but it's very good.
I guess so.
I didn't know it was City Girls. I remember that the title was Torculator. It's great. I mean, I don't know if I'd like it if it didn't have Planet Rock as their main. I hope they're giving Africa Bambaataa his cheddar on that one.
Well, it's Planet Rock and it's Kashmir is the one that did the original Percolator. That song. It's time for the Percolator.
Okay. So they're copying two different things. That's funny. I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
There's nothing original about that song other than the fact that they kind of put it together and it's cool.
Not at all. So next show we'll talk about house music and all that stuff. And Kashmir was a house music DJ and that was his big hit. And I remember because I was listening to a lot of hip hop in WDAS and Power 99 were the stations in Philly. And they would play hip hop, but when it's 5 o'clock drive or whatever it is, they would play It's Time for the Percolator. I was like, wow, they're playing this on a hip hop station. So it was there was a little
blend, there's a little crossover.
Yep.
That's cool. Yeah, like that song, I think. I like more the references. Of course, our kids have no idea that either of those things are from something else. And when I tell them that, they're just like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter.
They don't care. I know.
They just don't care. I'm like, you don't understand, that's Planet Rock. It's like one of the greatest hip hop songs ever made. And then you've got your great house song. So whatever, it doesn't matter. That's why it's so easy to just sample shit and get away with it.
I guess.
All right, Len, another great show. Thank you for sharing your life with us. And
no, thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Making Cannabis Personal. Amazon.
Make it personal. Make it personal. All right. Take care.
Man.